we've talked about reputation loss from just a breach in general, not specifically an SDLC attack, but um, and we have from the financial side, what we've seen is temporary hits on stock prices. And then what
Right.
happens is the market loves a bargain. And so when they see it go down, they start buying
Yeah.
it up and it bounces back. So it's kind of more of a situation of, oh, I didn't like that, the public saying that, but then the financial people saying, like, it's still the same damn product and now it's cheap. Let me make some money here. And it all goes right back up. Um,
Interesting.
but with the software itself, is it the same sort of audience speaking up about trust or not? Are we kind of dealing with the same trust issue as I just described, or is this completely different? I'll start with you, Mackenzie.
Yeah, so I think what's incredibly important here is your response to an incident.
Yeah.
So
I agree. Yes.
So, like, how you deal with that? Because I mean, if you're the CISO, I mean, like, Uber's CISO recently got convicted,
Right.
because they tried to cover that up. You've lost a lot of. If that was a security product or something that was, fundamental, then that's pretty bad. If we go to the other end, SolarWinds had one of the worst attacks that we saw. But
Mm-hmm.
one of the things that they did well, and you can probably argue against this, but one of the things I think they did well was their communication with exactly what happened, not trying to. I mean, after the initial kind of, we have a little bit of an incident. Once it started getting in, they started publishing exactly what happened. There was analysts that got involved that had access. So then you kind of go, okay, you've lost some trust, but that has kind of been built up. And now I feel like SolarWinds is in a better position than before they were breached. So I feel comfortable again.
Well,
But
it's interesting.
yeah,
We're going to actually have the CISO for SolarWinds on our show, and I met him at a conference. And this is just a quick story that I thought was amazing. In his first 30 days of dealing with the incident, this was like 2.5 years ago almost,
Right.
he moved into corporate housing across the street from the office, was working 6 a.m. to midnight every day. He lost 30 pounds that first month.
That is a fast diet.
I have
That
a, I have
is,
a,
I mean,
have a
I was
story
just
too.
thinking, like, that's a great way to lose weight. Insane stress.
You got to be careful what you should be advertising here, David. I have a funny story too about that. Well, not really funny, but I went to a panel when he was on there, and
Yeah.
the panel led with the question, "Why haven't you been fired?" And I think that someone would agree to be on a panel where that kind of question is asked, and he had a great answer for it.
What did he
like,
say?
Okay. Well, he wasn't as far as I can say, he wasn't actually the CISO at that time. He kind of moved into that.
Sure.
There wasn't a CISO, but
Yeah.
there was, but it was kind of like his response was just, immediately onto the ground. He rallied his team around him. I think he had a lot of support internally by the people that were working. And I guess at the end, it would have been that this would be a disaster if we got rid of him. So
Yeah, well, you needed some.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't get, because you need someone who knows the environment day one
Yeah.
to deal
Yeah.
with it.
Yeah.
No,
That's a logical response, I would say, right? But, unfortunately, when you're dealing with something of that nature, people want ahead. They want to find someone to blame or something to blame, right?
But I don't think that's been so much the case these days. Do you? Like, I think that historically that was, but we're not seeing that much. Like, how many? Honestly, when's the last CISO you know of that was fired right after a breach? I can't think of any.
Maybe
Recently.
not right after, but sometimes some things can start unfolding in the 6 to 12 months after, which is true in the CISO case for everything. But I would say, actually, one of the things that is important is that, using that example that you have of Uber and SolarWinds, one is appealing directly to consumers for the most part, or at least has a consumer brand name. And then SolarWinds has much more of a sort of, a business audience. And I think that makes a huge difference in both
Yes.
the education level of your audience in terms of knowing what to look for, knowing what to ask for, and also their patience,
Yeah. Okay. So let's go back to, because you talked about how active your audience is when you were at Roblox. Question: when you had some kind of incident in the software development chain, something happened. That audience is so active in chat rooms and whatnot that
Right.
my feeling is, if you don't get out there and publicly communicate, they are going to make up the story any damn way they want, because they're doing it all the time anyways, right?
That's right. That's right. You have to get out ahead of it, and you have to have very well synchronized information and relationships with your comms teams, the marketing and PR groups that are doing this kind of stuff day in, day out for all sorts of purposes, and be able to translate that very quickly for a multi-layered audience. You're going to have audience people like other CISOs, other security practitioners that are going to want to see credibility. Everyone wants to see credibility, but they're going to look for it in a different way, right? And then all the way through, the parents, the community, the the user base. So you have to be able to work with those teams and get your message out in a very specific and direct way.
All right, we got a game to play.